So my name's James Galvan, Galvan. I'm 51 years old, and down here in San Diego, I just recently served a 30-year to life sentence. I've been incarcerated for the last 26 years of my life. At age 22, I got myself into trouble and literally ended up in prison rather than living a life out here in freedom. So while I was in prison, I ended up getting my certificates. I got 15 certifications in different vocations, and I surpassed my associate's degree in business management, so I utilized my time wisely. But one of the best choices I think that I made while I was in there was becoming a Christian, and it kept me sober for 13 years. That's the one thing. I've done the NAAA and it works for others, but it wasn't working for me. So I went to board. I went to Prop 36. They wouldn't let me out. That's for nonviolent. I was a nonviolent offender. Prop 36, they wouldn't let me out. Prop 57, 47, all the props for 3 strikers, they wouldn't let us out. And my crime was technically a non-serious felony. But now I did. So I sat down for 26. On my 25th year, I went to board, which is the Board of Prison Terms. You have 3 commissioners in front of you, and you're trying to convince them that you're no longer a risk to society to repeat a violent offense or what have you. But I was not there. My attorney was, come to find out, a divorce attorney, not a real criminal attorney. So he had me sign on for another 3 years. And I had only one fight in 26 years. So yeah, and they still wouldn't let me out. Over 100 pages of self-help groups, 15 certifications, 80 units in college, and one fight. And they still wouldn't let me come home. And right now with the prison system the way that it is, it's so overcrowded, especially when COVID hit, it was a disaster. So I wrote the district attorney. I invested in a penal code book, and in this penal code book I ran across 1170D, and I kept reading it. Everybody on the yard was telling me, no, you got to have a district attorney, a police officer, a judge, or your supervisor to recommend you for resentencing. But I kept reading, and there it was. It said that a prisoner may send in an application or a family member. So I got the application for the 1170D, and it landed on the same desk of the district attorney who gave me 30 years to life, 26 years later. And I put my outside contact on there, and she called my outside contact and told her, tell James that he'll be home next week. I'm like, yeah, right. So I didn't believe it, and I sat there and just continued doing my program in prison. And I never thought I was ever going to. I had already been through so many different appeals and what have you. And it was the district attorney who said, I can tell that you're a different man, you're a different person today. I mean, I was only 22, so, I've matured, gotten wiser, right? Especially with everything going on with different groups that I didn't want to be a part of anymore. I just wanted to become a Christian and be devout to the church and kind of just leave me alone kind of thing, And it worked out great. It got me sober for 13 years. So that really worked. Now I get out. They said I'm going to go home. I go home like immediately. And I'm like, yeah, I don't believe it. Tell him he's coming home. So when they called my name to roll up my property, if you look behind, look into the cell, you'd think someone was still living in there. Because I didn't take anything. I just left everything. But since I've been out here, after 26 years, they said, here's $200, figure it out. I could not utilize the benefits that would come with, and I know that's kind of like an oxymoron to a lot of people, but there's a lot of benefits with adult parole rehabilitation, which is parole or probation. There's different resources that you can use with them that will pay for re-entry programs, that will pay for transitional housing and such. And because I didn't have that, I never even seeked to look for a place to stay or whatever. So now I've been out here on the street for the last year and a half, 2 years now, you know, since I got out, and I can't seem to find my spot in life. So imagine everything that you've learned in the last 26 years, especially technology-wise, I was not privy to, you know. So learned how to use a cell phone, did have my first Starbucks, my first Red Bull, you know, lovely, expensive, but lovely. So now I'm just trying to get myself back on my feet. Being out here on the streets, I've gotten more scars and more wounds being on the street than I have being in prison. It's not safe being out here on the street and being homeless. Even as a man, I know that a lot of the women struggle, as you know, really struggle with that. But and it's a shame. So now I'm just trying to get back trying to get myself back on my feet, get back to work. But I have to have a stable environment, somewhere where I can go to and actually feel safe. I don't have to watch my back all night, you know, or having just a lot of things that happen. But that's my story, man. I just did a 30-year to life term, and now I'm out here trying to figure this world out. That's completely different than what it was 26 years ago.